Sometimes, dear readers, it can be an absolute chore to try and follow and keep up to date with all the goings on at these different reform councils. As you know, Cornwall is currently in absolute free fall, but at least they're not in charge of Cornwall, so it's sort of all right. Meanwhile, of course, in Kent, things are currently okay-ish. There's some hilarious issues going on at the moment with the fact that they want to put Christmas lights, but they can't because guess what? There's all those flags all up at the moment, and Kent County Council has gone on record and said we will never remove those flags. So they've got a choice. They can either A, keep those flags, or they cannot have Christmas lights. Gee, I wonder which one they're mostly going to be complaining about. Anyway, meanwhile, of course, as we head further north, up the land, as they say, we head, of course, into Leicestershire, because this is one council where we have been keeping an increasing eye on, because there's two things that are coming up. First of all, local government reform. Bear in mind, deadline's end of this month. We'll see what happens when some of these ideas and proposals, or maybe even lack of proposals, get submitted at the end of this month. It's going to be quite an interesting. And then, of course, heading into December, it's budget time. And for those of you who know or may not know how all this works, budget, first of all, goes to the cabinet in December. It then goes to the full council in January. It then goes before all the budget committees that are going to be formed and made up in February. So that's the deadline. That's what they've got to try and meet. But Dan Harrison, of course, the reform leader in Leicestershire County Council, has put all his eggs into one basket in the hopes that this audit committee, which originally was going to be Doggle, the local Department of Government Efficiency, was going to come and find all this waste, and Leicestershire would be saved. That's not happening. So instead, he's now had to get outside consultants, something which, when he was a Conservative councillor, complained vociferously against this. He was against this when he was a Conservative councillor, but now he's actually, a Reform councillor. He's in charge. Oh, well, we need to spend this. But how much money is he spending? Well, dear reader, we're going to find out very, very soon indeed. Because, oh boy, I'll tell you now, if this audit team cannot find more savings than what Dan Harrison has promised, why then did you go and spend all this money on this audit team to find less money than this audit cost? So, oh boy, preview into probably what's I'm about to tell you what the number is. But before we do get into this, please do, of course, remember to click on the like, share, and of course, subscribe button down below. There are, of course, links down below to the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the YouTube membership button down below as well. And of course, don't forget to ring the bell as well, so you get notifications of when we go live or when we have a new video being dropped. There's the QR code up here, which will take you straight to the Patreon page. And of course, with that, I've left you in suspense long enough. How much is this external audit costing the people of Leicestershire to pay for? Well, as you can see here, it's costing 1.4 million pounds on cost-cutting consultants. They have, I've stressed this before, they have people in the council who do this all the time, who are employed to do this. Why are you not using them? Anyway, let's find out more about this then, shall we? So, Leicestershire County Council has now announced it will pay consultants £1.4 million to carry out a cost-cutting review. The Reform UK-led authority said it has now launched a top-to-bottom analysis of its £1.3 billion annual spending. Bear in mind, the budget has to be done and ready to be voted on in time for December. There is not a lot of time to do this for the cabinet. And you can't chop and change it. You can't chop and change it at all. You can't then vote on one thing at the cabinet to then send to the full council something else. Has to be voted on by the cabinet. That then goes to the full council, which that then is voted on to then go to these committees. Which, bear in mind, if you make any changes, you sort of have to go back. So if there's any changes between the cabinet and the full council, it has to go back to the cabinet to be voted on to then go back to the full council. If it has to do any committee stuff, that's where smaller changes can be made, but it will have to again go back at the end of that committee to be fully approved at the end of that process. So you can see constantly why this is going to cause a lot of very interesting problems for a lot of these local councillors who have promised time and time again that they will lower council tax, that they are going to cut all this waste, fraud, and abuse. Anyway, let's find out more about this. So the consultancy firm Newton has now been commissioned to carry out this task rather than the members of his own party's Doge team. The council leader, Dan Harrison, for this exercise would identify savings many times higher than the fee being paid to the firm, which would help the authority close the 90 million gap between what it spends annually and what its income is. Oh, he hopes. Dan Harrison hopes it's going to find more than 1.4 million. He hopes it will find more than that. Oh, bear in mind, that right there is going to be it's his death knell. That is going to be his absolute death knell if this spending analysis doesn't come back and deliver more than 1.4 million. Anyway, however, Michael Mullaney, the leader of the council's Liberal Democrat opposition group, said he now had doubts the review would find any substantial savings. 1.4 million is a lot of money to spend on consultants to cut costs, he said. The reality is that the council has been cutting spending now for years, and if there were more savings to be found, they would have been identified. Which again is what has been time and time and time again told to these people, but they have not listened, laboring under the delusion of what most people think about local councils, that they're just, complete fraudsters, hucksters. They're taking, brown envelopes under the table. They're all wasting all this, public money on all this stuff. They're not. They have no idea what a local council runs, how it works, what it actually does, and where most of the money is actually spent. Bear in mind, a lot of that money that the council spends is legally locked in by the government. So good luck, guys. But 1.4 billion, yeah, it is an awful lot of money to try and save. Oh dear. Anyway, back to this. The council, of course, said that these initial opportunities to speed up existing saving projects were, of course, expected in December, with more now detailed recommendations then to follow in early 2026. They said, of course, the review would focus on prevention, supporting residents before they needed help from the council, and managing to grow demand and managing now to grow demand now for services. The consultants will also look to see if they can save the council more money on contract procurement, as well as trying to improve efficiency and trying to maximize income. This is going to fail. Honestly, this is going to fail spectacularly because I think they've got less than 3 months to do that. Harrison said that, of course, residents are, of course, expecting us to reduce costs, and that's what we're trying to doing. Closing now a sizable 90 million gap is not an easy feat. That is why we've brought in now leading professionals to look at every inch of the council to try and help us now bring down costs. Newton have a very strong track record across the public and private sectors, and now will be led by the evidence. This isn't about eking out just a few £100,000 here and there. It absolutely is, but there you go. This is about working with the lead officers across the council and our partners to try to identify and test big opportunities to do things differently. Harrison previously said Reform UK, which has now run the council as a minority administration since May, aimed to set a budget with the council tax at 3%, increased at least from April 26, rather than the 5% minimum allowed by the government-imposed cap. Harrison Fowler, the cabinet minister for resources, said that getting maximum efficiency for our taxpayers is at the heart of this. They are very experienced people who will now give us fresh eyes and the best practice required for such a major task. Oh boy, are we going to hear so much stuff that happens now? We are going to hear so much stuff. This is going to fail spectacularly. You can already see the writing on the wall. You can already see the writing on the wall. I would love to speak to a councillor in Leicester about what they think about all this. But I guarantee you now, this is not going to save Dan Harrison. Dan Harrison is screwed. We've been saying this for months. He's put all his eggs into this one basket that these people are going to go and find, like the secret treasure. Dan Harrison has posted an ad, wanted financial explorers to find the secret council treasure chamber that's been hidden by the dastardly Conservatives, of a party which he was part of before, that they're going to now go out and somehow return with this mountain of treasure hoard that's been secretly squirreled away. That is not going to happen. That is not going to happen at all. Because guess what? Councils, first of all, do not work like private businesses. First and foremost, if you've ever worked in a council, or you've ever worked in a council, worked in a private company, and then out, or vice versa, you will find they'll run very, very different. And in a council, there's a lot more accountability. There is paperwork by the barrelful to do stuff, to check stuff. I know people that have to file 2 or 3 expense claims just for getting a sandwich on expenses claims, which is something they can claim for if they're away on council business. You know, this is going to be, honestly, when all this blows up, this is going to be incredible. So look forward to this when all this kicks off. But make no mistake, and put this in your diaries, 1.4 million. If this audit people cannot find more than that, what was the point in doing this audit, first of all? And if they do find more than this, what exactly are they looking at cutting? What is this efficiency stuff that they're trying to do? And what would be very, very interesting is, I would say now to the opposition councillors, if they do find this, speak to the council officers, speak into this and say, yeah, these people have come back and said this. What do you actually think to this? Find out what those council actual workers say about this, what they think about this. Because I guarantee you, they will have a very, very different opinion. And they'll be like, yeah, well, we can't do that because of this and because of this. And there's other things that, trust me, there's going to be a lot of very interesting push and pull on this. But as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, let me know what you think down below about all this, especially if you are, of course, from Leicestershire. He's just wasted £1.4 million worth of your tax money. I'd love to hear what you think about that. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.